the detoxification nation. Welcome back for another video to recalibrate with Raw Natty Nate. In this video, you guys, I just wanted to talk about detox. Get a lot of people messaging me what's the best way to detox their systems, to cleanse themselves, to filter out all the junk and all the funk. And hopefully you guys don't get dizzy on this video. I just wanted to keep hiking and talk to you guys like this. So this is kind of fun. But yeah, you guys, the detox aspect is such a trip because there are so many different ways to go about detoxing yourself. And of course, if we were to pinpoint just down to not necessarily the mindset, but to the internal systems, the digestive systems, the elimination systems, the filtration systems, these things are working constantly throughout our day, doing their thing every single day. So we don't even need to really do anything to detox. Our body is constantly detoxing itself. What really helps, from what I found, from the people that I've talked to and seeing what I've seen. Now this, of course, is if you are not necessarily trying to fight a life-threatening disease. Okay, if it's life-threatening disease, there might be a different protocol you'd want to adopt. But for those individuals who maybe have IBS, some eczema, flaky scalp, tired, irritable, they're sluggish, they're constipated, these sorts of things, maybe some headaches, these sorts of things, pimples. There's definitely things that you can do that will help your system in so many ways. And that is number one, eliminating the stuff that you're putting into yourself that's messing with your system to begin with, right? So if you are not eating healthy, if you're not eating a healthy diet, the first thing would be to really start understanding what kind of a life do you really want to be living? How healthy do you really want to feel? How much energy do you want to have getting older, right? Because that's how it works in this life. We get older. And there's certain things that we can do that'll really help us. Look at this rock, you guys. Jeez. This canyon is incredible. So for me, myself, personally, I got into this lifestyle really mainly because I watched, someone very close, near to me, which if you guys know any of my background, you know who this is, but I watched them reverse cancer, kidney cancer. And then I also met someone else while I was skiing, John, his name was. And he reversed his stage 4 colorectal cancer at the age of 42. And he'd been a raw foodie for 44 years ever since. And he was skiing. Absolutely incredible. So I wanted to adopt the lifestyle that he was living. And he was all about living foods. You are what you eat, he said, Nate. And I was like, dang, that makes sense. Living foods. So that's the best way to detox yourself, is to just eat living foods. What we need fiber. Fiber is so key to keeping our digestive tract and everything healthy inside, right? We have a tube. We have like a 40-foot tube, 30-some feet from hole to hole. It's a tube. You put food in this end of the hole and it has to go through the whole tube and come out the other side. And fiber is so incredibly important, so important. We want to have fiber. And a lot of times what's happening in our this day and age is we're not eating a fiber-rich diet. So that's going to start and cause all kinds of issues that we don't necessarily want to be dealing with. So fiber is super important. Now it's really interesting because now that I've been inside of this, this niche, so to speak, this raw vegan niche, it's really wild, you guys, because there's almost more debate between raw vegans than there are people who are non-vegans. And this debate that I'm talking about is there's certain sects of any kind of community. And the community that I feel like I am a part of is the part of the ones who eat appropriately, not necessarily the ones who are like juicing and detoxing all the time and in this detox mindset. Now, maybe some of you guys who are watching this video, you guys know some of these other individuals out there who are making YouTube videos, and they're very, very impactful in many ways. And some of them are very kind of like gaslighty and kind of narcissisty, if that's even a word. And it makes you kind of second guess your whole sense of self, and it makes you think, well, shoot, maybe there's something that I'm doing wrong. Maybe I should do something that they're saying here and, you know, stop eating food and go on like a solid food vacation for, you know, X amount of days. Now, a few days, especially if you're coming from a standard diet, probably not that bad of a deal. You know, maybe a pretty good idea. Yeah, sure. You know, drink some juice for a few days. But smoothies, of course, would be the better choice because you're not extracting all the fiber from what you're blending up or, you know, trying to ingest. But the thing is what I've seen people come into this lifestyle of wanting to be a raw foodie and get into this juicing and detox mindset where they have to, it becomes almost a disordered way of thinking. Look at this beautiful cholla bush. Oh my gosh, I just had to stop and show you guys. Definitely incredible. So wild. Anyways, you guys, the juicing mindset, I have a hard time with it. I have a hard time with it because these individuals who are just on these juice crazes, juice fasts, juice feasts, they call themselves raw vegan. And I'm like, that's a bunch of horse poo. You're not a raw vegan. A raw vegan plans for taking care of their system long term and building a good solid foundation with their food to begin with. And you know, I don't know, I have a hard time with this one, you guys, because I've seen so many people wreck themselves going into this detox mindset and joining into that group of raw vegans that are all about cleansing and detoxing and purifying the system and becoming a gangster, you know, because they haven't eaten any solid food for 180 days or 190 days, or maybe they go on a water fast for 30, 40 days, right? Like, unless you are deathly ill and seeking out some way to reverse some sort of disease, then you're on that trail, you're trying to figure out what's what. But a lot of times I've seen a lot of individuals come into this lifestyle, young, healthy individuals. Maybe they want clearer skin. They want flawless digestion. They don't want to fart. Look, you guys, we're swallowing air. We breathe air, right? Like, we're going to have air exit either out the mouth through a burp or out the other end as a fart. So if you fart, it's not necessarily a bad thing. But getting into the mindset that you have to detox to clean yourself, that's where it can get really tricky, because your body is constantly cleaning itself. We have 7 filtration organs, my friends, and they're working constantly to keep ourselves clean and healthy. So biggest thing is to eliminate all the junk and the funk that you know you shouldn't be ingesting. That right there is going to help yourself in so many ways. Second thing would be to just be mindful with what you're packing and what you're actually putting in the hole, right? The healthier the food, the more energy that you're giving your body to be able to cleanse and heal itself, because it's not having to process something that is not necessarily like a species specific kind of diet, right? Our species, it's really, really interesting how we don't have juicers or blenders in nature. We would just eat stuff naturally, right? Fruit off the trees, the bushes, the vines. That's what helps us feel divine. But nowadays, we have these different devices to kind of process our food in different ways. Juicers, blenders, ovens, refrigerators. Even a refrigerator is a form of process. Or, you know, it's like you're kind of processing your food because you're keeping it fresher for longer. It would perish quicker without being in cold, right? So it's really just incredible how many individuals come into the raw vegan movement or lifestyle and get sidetracked with the idea that they need to cleanse themselves of all impurities, and the only way to do that is to fast. And fasting, you guys, is very, very powerful in many ways, but essentially, like the only time in nature that we would fast normally is if we're like super sick. Like imagine you have the flu, and just the thought of food makes you want to vomit. You're fasting because you're like, no, I can't eat it. Of course, when you're sleeping, you're fasting, right? Or if there was like a famine, like we're starving out here, like we're out in the desert, we have nothing, and I know I'm out of food and I'm lost. Then, of course, I'd be fasting, not by choice, but out of necessity. So that right there is so incredible to think about. And what we'd be doing in nature is we'd be foraging for food constantly, right? But we've set ourselves up to where we have all this food in abundance all around us, grocery stores, and of course all the fast food chains and restaurants that are out there. It's amazing. But I would say if you guys are really wanting to detox yourselves, and maybe you clicked on this video because of the title, my advice to you would be to just eat raw, fresh, ripe, whole fruits and vegetables. Small amounts of nuts and seeds. Keep your fats super low and keep all of those greens and the fruits and the vegetables coming in abundance. And you're going to be detoxing yourself so amazingly. When I went raw, I dropped nearly 60 pounds in like 7 months. So that's a healthy weight loss. All I was doing was jumping on a little trampoline, a rebounder, right? Because I was understanding like we have a lymphatic system, right? Which is like the sewage system of our body. The blood is like the kitchen. It's delivering all the nutrients to all the cells. And the lymphatic system is the other liquid that's in our body. We only have the two liquids. We have blood and we have lymph. So we want to move the lymph, and jumping really helps, or walking or running, doing any kind of exercise, dry brushing. These kinds of things move that lymphatic system. So that's another way you can kind of help yourself filter. So all I did was jump on the trampoline, and I was chopping wood because I like to have wood for camping. We didn't have a wood stove or anything, but I would chop wood. I would take my dog for a walk. Twice a day I was taking him for a walk. So that right there is quite a bit. There's a lot of people who don't even take walks twice a day. But I'd put on headphones, listen to some music, go out in nature, just be with my dog. And that's all that I did, you guys. And I dropped like nearly 60 pounds and it was 57 pounds within 7 months, from February to August. From February is when I went raw, 2017, and then I went to the Woodstock Fruit Festival. And at that time, I was down 57 pounds. And I didn't really exercise very much. I just changed what I was eating. I wasn't eating any oils, no breads, right? Because I was plant-based. I was vegan at the time when I went raw. But just because I was plant-based or vegan doesn't mean that I was eating necessarily the best, healthiest foods. And I really just, after meeting him, man, I just wanted to adopt his lifestyle and do what he was doing. What he was doing was eating whole, living foods, sprouting, growing microgreens, living foods. And, he was eating no cooked foods. And I asked him, I was like, you eat any cooked food? He's like, I haven't eaten any cooked food. He had a couple things, but he's all basically for 44 years up in raw foodie. And he was skiing, 86 years old, down a Black Diamond with me. Met him on ski lift. And I was like, this is it, you guys. This is the fountain of youth right here. It makes so much sense now. Now that I think about it, it's like, oh my gosh, we just have to put in what Mother Nature has designed for us, and we're going to feel amazing. We don't have to cut off all kinds of foods. Juicing, of course, is amazing. It's super expensive though, and you're taking all the fiber from what you're making, the juice. And sometimes when people come into this lifestyle, they have a hard time digesting because they're not used to having so much fiber, because we're like really fiber deficient. We are eating more protein than our kidneys and our system can actually process, and we're eating nowhere near the daily the recommended daily allowance of fiber. So that's where, people, when they drink juice, they're like, oh, I feel amazing, because the fiber isn't messing with them. Because what's happening is when we don't eat a lot of fibrous foods, we don't have the microbiome in our intestines to really break down and process that fiber. And that's what they really eat. That's what they're eating. We don't digest fiber. It's the microbiome, the gut bugs that process and feed off the fiber. Now, these are soldiers that we want with us, you guys. They're not necessarily the soldiers that we're trying to eliminate. Now, parasites, certain things like that, for sure, they exist, right? If you're eating any kinds of animal products, you've got parasites. You've got different kinds of worms within you. You don't have to cleanse and detox and try to kill them. What you do is you just cut off their food supply. It's so simple. If they don't have the food to eat, say if you have a microbiome that's in there that breaks down breads and animal products, they're thriving if that's what you're normally eating every single day, especially every meal. Animal products and breads, these sorts of things, your body's very smart, and it's going to produce more of this microbiome to break down those kinds of foods. If you're not putting in a lot of vegetables and fruits, you don't have the soldiers and the squad to basically break down those kinds of foods, so that you might have a little bloating, you might have a little gas, you might feel a little indigestion, because you're basically rebuilding and introducing a different kinds of foods that are, in a lot of ways really cleansing. These kinds of foods are what was designed by Mother Nature for us to eat. We're in a position at this point in time, my friends, we don't have to kill to survive. Like, we're in a position in a lot of ways to be able to thrive in so many ways. We kind of glamorize being back in the indigenous culture days, which I most definitely would love to be a part of that, to incorporate part of. I love technology. Like, it's fun to be able to make this video. I'm capturing these pictures. This is stuff that I'll be able to bring with me forever, which is really cool. But of course, there are aspects to our indigenous culture times that are really beautiful. But man, they were really having a hard time just maintaining to survive. So they did, very possibly, if people weren't living in tropics where there's plenty of fruits and vegetables, or they weren't cultivating, you could see how we would turn to like the rivers, and we'd watch the bears catch the fish and the birds catch the fish, and we'd be like, oh, we want to do these kinds of things. But this day and age right now where we're at, people really kind of get sidetracked with this detox, because they think, okay, yeah, I've been eating this certain way for so long, I'm probably really dirty. I probably really do need to clean myself. And then you start getting into these circles, these different groups talking about detoxing and cleansing. And it's really, really, when I first was going raw, actually before I went raw, when I watched, my loved one reverse kidney cancer, it was 8 months before I went raw. It was 8 months before I met John. John, for me, was the catalyst. I was like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm going to be a raw foodie for the rest of my life, because it just makes sense. But in that 8th month time frame, I was researching a lot. And we all have the same kinds of access to this information that other individuals are putting out. And some of it's really powerful. Some of it, I was like, this makes sense. Okay, yeah, I need to get the mucoid plaque out. I need to cleanse myself. I need to do a parasite cleanse. I need to get these worms out of me. And I started to kind of freak out, thinking, oh my God, I've got all these worms in me, and I need to get them out. And I've got this mucoid plaque, and I'm eating like mucus-forming foods, and oh my God, and I started to get really scared. And that's what's happening. I'm seeing so many people. I don't coach, because I don't really want to coach. I've thought about firing it up and being a coach, but I have coached people in the past. And what I've seen, especially with what I see Lissa and other friends who coach, is I see people really hurt themselves by trying to use their ego, their mind, that they're going to detox themselves. They're going to cleanse themselves, and they're going to be like a gangster, because they're going to be so hardcore, and they're going to just juice for like hundreds of days, right? 180 days. Oh my gosh, you did 180 days. You're such a BA, a badass. You're such a badass. How did you do that? Well, what happens when you do that, you guys, is you're starving both of the, squads, so to speak, in your gut. They're not getting any of the animal products, right? They're not getting any fiber. You're basically atrophying your gut. That's the way I picture it. And of course, we could get all super scientific, and I could really put myself together a nice video where I've got PowerPoints that I'm like making sure I'm hitting all these things. I'm just trying to flow with you guys and just level with you guys from what I've seen and what has worked for me and what I've seen work for other people, the long-termers, raw vegans, and then the people who jump into this lifestyle and wreck themselves, go back to eating animal products. They go back to eating animal products because they don't have the microbiome to digest the fiber. As soon as they ingest fiber, very possibly if they cut down, if they're juicing for long enough, the microbiome is smart and it is like, it wants food. So it starts crawling up the tube. It's kind of gross when you think about it, right? These little gut bugs. But we're more microbial life forms than we are actual human cells. The research has shown. We're made of more microbes everywhere on our skin and our hair, nails and our eyes. It's like it can kind of freak you out if you let it. But if you cut off their food supply by juicing yourself just to near death, what happens most of the time is people gets what's called SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. All that is, the way that I understand it, is it's these microbes that are trying to find food and they climb up the tube to try to find it. And they go from the large intestine, the colon, into the small intestine, right? So the food goes from the stomach into the small intestine. And these microbes that are in the large intestine don't belong in the small intestine. So when people go back to eating fiber after juicing themselves 180 days, they should be clean by now. Or they did a 30-day juice cleanse. They did a 40-day solid food vacation. When they go back into introducing solid foods into their system, sometimes people have excruciating pain because they don't have the microbial life form to break down these foods in the right place. It's just like they basically starve themselves, thinking they're going to clean themselves by starving themselves. It's a really disordered mindset. It's a disordered mindset. And maybe some people really feel that it's the only way. Maybe some of you guys who are watching this video, maybe you'll leave me some comments that are going to be off color because you really disagree with me. And I really don't give a hoot. I don't. What I've seen is more people wreck themselves by trying to juice themselves and cleanse themselves in this raw vegan lifestyle. I'm a raw vegan. I'm a solid food vacationer. And then they go back to animal products. Like 9 times out of 10, I see people who don't make the ethical connection. When you're a vegan, my friends, you make an ethical connection that you're not going to kill and exploit other sentient beings, right? Now, of course, there's the whole concept of, people come up, Nate, plants have feelings too, 100%. They don't have the same kind of central nervous system as us, but for sure they communicate with one another. They're here to help us. Animals, creatures, other creatures, right? Taking the silk from the silkworm, taking the honey from the bees. This is just, we don't need to be doing these kinds of things. It's messing us up. So making that ethical connection is where becoming a vegan is all about. And these individuals who call themselves raw vegan who haven't made that ethical connection, they're not vegan. They haven't made that connection yet. So when you're plant-based and you get into this for own egotistical purposes, there's nothing wrong with wanting to be healthy. There's nothing wrong with wanting to cleanse yourself and be a healthier person. But that's, of course, like all bound by flesh. Like we're in this flesh body, right? And there's fleshly desires. And a fleshly desire would be like, I want to be the most healthiest, sexiest man alive or woman alive. And the only way to do it is to cleanse myself of impurities. Well, do just that, my friends. Just stop putting in the funk and just eat raw foods for 180 days. That to me, me and Lissa always talk back and forth, like that's more impressive. Eating raw foods, preparing delicious, healthy meals. It doesn't have to be gourmet, high fat. We don't feel good when we eat a high fat meal. Like sometimes we eat some pretty high fat meals. When we put in our chronometer, we're like, wow, this meal alone was 34% fat. That's high fat. Some dietitians and nutritionists would say 20 to 30% would be low fat, considered low fat, because the majority of us are eating probably 50% of our calories in fat. But keeping it around 10, 12% fat, you're feeling good. Digestion is working nicely. Elimination is nice. So we have all these different things that we want to get healthy from, chronic constipation and all these different things. Most of us, there's so many of us that are chronically constipated, and that's where a lot of disease really starts. The healthier our guts are, the healthier we're feeding our microbiome, the healthier immune system we're going to have. The more serotonin we're going to be producing, which is the feel-good hormone. We're going to be feeling amazing. So, I don't know. Sometimes I like to ramble, and, I might be rambling on, you guys, but the biggest thing that I see is it's really sad when people come into this raw vegan movement, call themselves raw vegan, start preaching the gospel of cleansing and detoxing and get rid of mucoid plaque, which I'm going to do a whole video on mucoid plaque. Stay tuned for that one. That one will be a video in itself. And then they mess themselves up by basically starving or detoxing themselves to near death. Women lose their menstruation cycles. People start losing their hair because the body is basically in this state where it's like, we're starving. Shut down all systems that aren't necessary. We don't need to grow hair. We don't need to reproduce. We're barely being able to hang on. So these kinds of things happen. And then a lot of times, 9 times out of 10, maybe that's a bit much. Maybe it's 8 times out of 10. People go back to eating animal products because it's the only way that they can kind of rebuild and re-nourish their system because they've wrecked themselves so hardcore. It's easier. You're going to feel good. Really dense calories, higher fat. You're going to feel good. No fiber, no gut irritations. So to me, my friends, best way to detox ourselves, stop putting in the funk and just start putting in the good stuff that we need. And what do we need? We need everything that Mother Nature has provided for us. Mother Nature has provided so much for us in abundance. We don't have to worry if we're going to get enough. We're going to get it plenty enough. We're going to get enough protein. We're going to get enough all of the micronutrients, the minerals. All of these things are contained within these plant foods, especially in their whole form, uncooked. So, yeah, you guys, best way to detox, stop putting in the funk and just start putting in all the beautiful, delicious foods that this great Mother Earth has provided for us. Mother knows best. She loves us. She wants us to be good stewards of this world, keeping it clean, keeping our bodies clean. We have everything that we need in the plant kingdom, but we need to eat the food, not juice it. Best juicers are these right here, the teeth. Those are the best juicers that we could possibly have, right? You get this, what is it? The Norwalk, juicer, cold pressed juicer. These are amazing tools. Don't get me wrong. Like, we have a juicer. I love a good fresh juice, but to live on it, no, thank you. No, thank you. I have done some juice cleanses and I've done some fasts before, but to me, I'm like, you know what? I'm not fighting for my life from like a cancer or a life-threatening disease. What I need to do is I just need to go back to a way I was designed to eat and eat accordingly. So that's what's done it for me. And that's what's going to keep me long-term. I'm not going back, you guys. I'm going to be like John, 44-year raw vegan, skiing in his 80s. That's the way I want to be. What does he do? He doesn't restrict. He doesn't count calories and try to, stay in a caloric deficit and all this kind of stuff. He just does things that are active, right? Skiing, climbing. I only got to hang out with him for about 20 minutes. So, how much can you learn from somebody in 20 minutes? And of course, we were on a pretty good roll of conversating. But I knew right then and there I wanted to live like this individual. And so I looked at the people who have been doing this for years, decades and decades. And there's people in their, late 30s, 35 plus years, 40 years on this lifestyle as living in this raw food lifestyle, living this way. They're the long-termers. Those are the people I'm looking towards. How are they sustaining it? What are they promoting? Now, don't get me wrong. These other individuals out there who are promoting cleansing and juicing, maybe they've got good intentions. They're feeling so amazing they want to help somebody else. There's nothing wrong with that. But what I'm seeing more than not is I see people just totally jack themselves up by trying to cleanse themselves to the point of death, basically. And then they go back to eating animals. They said I had to. I was starting to deteriorate. And then there's this YouTuber out there, he does stuff on vegans called vegan deterioration. And it's definitely true. There are vegans out there who are deteriorating in many ways because they aren't eating healthfully. So that's my little rant on this hike, you guys. And hopefully you've enjoyed it. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up if you've made it this far. Click the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed already. Be sure to click the bell for notifications for new videos coming out. And leave me a comment. Leave me some thoughts. I'm all about having some communication and some conversations with you guys, honestly. Maybe there's some people out there searching. Maybe they're really trying to figure out what's going to be the best way. Maybe there's some people out there. I'll probably get some comments from people who think that I don't know anything, and they know it all. And I'm going to tell you, I'll be the first to tell you, I don't know shit. I'm still trying to figure out certain things in life too, you guys. But I do know one thing. I do know that I've seen people who are long-term. They're not necessarily headstrong and like wanting to take solid food vacations. The solid food vacation thing is huge in a lot of ways, and it's really enticing. So anyways, just a rant. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And leave me some ideas for some other videos if you guys have some ideas of videos you'd like me to talk about. I love going off and talking about all kinds of stuff. I do need to do more of these videos. And of course, there's a way to do a video where you guys can come and get a lot of information, very, very short and pinpointed, and have to work on that, because I know I kind of go off on tangents sometimes, but I do get passionate about this lifestyle and this way of life, and seeing what other people are doing, what's working for them, what's not working for them. And honestly, I want you guys to be able to have the best possible life as well. I truly do. I feel like the healthier we are, we can do a lot better things for one another in this planet when we are healthy. When we've got a healthy gut, we got a healthy mind, because they say our gut is our second brain. So that is definitely important. But you guys, make sure you check out the meal plans that we have and the recipe books. Everything's on 40% off. The code's RAWFOOD40. So be sure to check those out if you guys are looking for some inspiration and some ideas. These meal plans are set up to where you'll be able to sustain and live a healthy life and not get bored, right? Because some people are like, oh, raw vegan, that's got to be so boring. Man, it's anything but boring. I'm telling you what, that's for sure. It's really fun. So, all right, you guys, until next time, love you guys.